Support WrestleTalk!
Give us a subscribe.
Is there real live heat between Alexa Bliss and Nia Jax in WWE? I am Luke Owen. This is, of course, Ollie Davis. Welcome to the weekend edition of the WrestleRamble. But now, I just wanted to ask you first, because there's been some concerns in the comments section. There's been some concerns online that not all is right within WrestleTalk at the moment, that there's some really weird shenanigans going on. There's some really weird behaviour. People aren't really acting the right way. And there's just some very odd stuff going on. And I, too, have felt this. So I felt that this was the perfect time to ask you, sir.
What?
Do you know where the duct tape is? Because I just could not find it when I put the T-shirt up. There's still a blank wall up on the T, and it looks rubbish.
That is freaking people out, isn't it? It's
well,
freaking me out.
And it looks rubbish.
What were you tied up with when that time you got kidnapped?
Yes, by that awful person.
By that awful guy.
Yeah, totally awful.
What happened?
Well, I was tied up with wrestling rope.
Right.
But I did a duct tape over my mouth.
It's probably there then, isn't it?
I should probably check the cupboard. Next to the raisins. Well, I'll after this, that's where I'll go and look. So glad we've got that all cleared up. So let's dive in to the biggest news piece of the week, and that is that there is apparently rumoured to be backstage heat on Nia Jax.
Not old Nia.
Not old Nia.
Lovely Nia.
Lovely Nia.
Lovely Nia. My personal favourite, Nia Jax.
Is she your personal favourite?
Yes.
Okay. There apparently is some backstage heat on Nia Jax. So I'm just making my notes a little bit bigger here so I can actually read them. So this has been reported by Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer. So instantly, people who listen to Bruce Pritchard are going to tell you that it's wrong. But he hasn't reported this in the Wrestling Observer newsletter or on Twitter or anything like that. It's very interesting. He's reported this on the Wrestling Observer message boards.
Oh, I was going to say Snapchat. Snapchat.
Yeah, it's on.
He seems like the kind of guy who would use Snapchat.
It's on the forum essentially, and it's really odd that's in there. So I think it's kind of like fallen under the radar of a lot of news sites and stuff, and it's kind of been picked up quite recently by Cage Side Seats and things like that. So this was a story that we didn't report on when it was originally happening, because for me, I would argue it's not news, and it was along the lines of that. Nia Jax stopped following Alexa Bliss on Twitter and on Instagram.
What?
I know, well, and then it gets more, and then there was someone made a comment on, I think it was either Nia Jax's page or on Alexa Bliss's, like something like that, and the comment said that Alexa alluded to that Alexa Bliss is only in the position she's in because she's sleeping around, and she's kind of sleeping with the higher-uppers in order to get this position. And Nia Jax liked that comment.
Ooh.
So that obviously comes up in a feed to say, like, Nia Jax liked this person's comment saying all this sort of stuff. So we didn't report on this as news because, to me, it's not massively news.
It feels very playground.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah. Like, it feels like there should be bigger stuff to that. But a lot of people thought that there was some real-life heat between Alexa Bliss and Nia Jax. Alexa Bliss followed this up, I'm guessing because a lot of people were asking her on Twitter, is there heat between you and Nia Jax? And she replied very simply, ... no. Which is almost similar to Randy Orton with ... dive, ... no. And that seemed to be the end of it. She then followed it up with a tweet. It was an image that said, maturity is learning to walk away from people and situations that threaten your peace of mind, self-respect, values, morals, or self-worth. So that was a couple of days later. Then Alexa Bliss got a tattoo. She got a tattoo in white ink. Which I think is popular with the youth of today.
White ink?
White ink, yeah, so you don't see it. That's what you want from a tattoo, right?
An invisible tattoo.
Essentially, yes.
She's got to get it in invisible ink. Exactly. Only shows up under UV light.
Yeah, it's like Acme ink.
Yeah.
Like, you just need
it's
the
like
right thing.
bedspread in CSI.
Exactly. So she's got a tattoo in semen that can only be seen.
She's got a tattoo in evidence.
In evidence that says, I am enough. Like that, so she's got that. It's just for her. That's absolutely fine. If that's what you want to do, if you've got a white ink tattoo, then more power to you.
Yep.
It's not for me. I've got tattoos that are in black ink, and you can see them.
I have no tattoos, but as Ollie Davis, as everyone knows.
But that is just me. And Nia, not replying to this, not really alluding to this, just put up a tweet that said, for someone that doesn't care what anyone thinks, it's weird that they have to go out and get a tattoo that says they're enough. So a lot of people know, and then everyone's going like, do you know what? it's just a work. They're currently feuding.
It smells worky to me.
It smells worky to me.
Yeah.
I mean, Nia Jax has changed her name on Twitter, which obviously a lot of people kind of put a lot of stock into in terms of, this, that, and the other, and it might mean something.
Someone's leaving or something.
Well, exactly, yeah. And there was that report last year that she walked out on WWE because she was upset with her current direction, which we're not sure was true or not, because she did eventually come back, but there was all this sort of story and stuff, and I think The Rock was involved in it somehow. And so this kind of sort of all ties together, I feel. And Alexa Bliss isn't on. The other thing is that people think it's a work for Total Divas.
Right.
For the new series of Total Divas, because they're doing the thing with John Cena and John Cena and Nikki Bella. 100% that to work. Like, that is what it's all for a reality TV show. And this also feels like
bless them and their whole lives.
Exactly, yeah.
Bless their whole lives having to be reality TV.
Oh, no, it seems awful, doesn't it?
At least people on Love Island get to leave and be D-list celebrities for about 2 years.
So, where was I? So that's all this, and people thought maybe it's a Total Divas thing. But Alexa Bliss isn't on the latest series of Total Divas. She is...
Dun, dun.
I know, right? It gets, the plot gets thicker. So, she is not on the next season of Total Divas, and the E cameras were not following her around WrestleMania weekend. They were following everyone else, the other cast, but not Alexa Bliss. So there's all these things like, has Alexa Bliss got the backstage heat? Then, Dave Meltzer replied to this on the Wrestling Observer forums that just simply said, Nia has backstage heat. This is not a work. And then a few people replied to it, and he saying, is this anything to do with Total Divas? And he replied, this has nothing to do with Total Divas.
What?
Now, I thought that he would expand upon this in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, and he hasn't. So this is all.
Maybe he's sort of backtracking silently.
Maybe
you know
it is,
what I mean?
yeah. He's made these comments, and because he hasn't said anything on social media as far as I can tell, and he hasn't put anything in the newsletter. I don't think he said anything on the radio shows either. So, is there backstage heat between Nia Jax and Alexa Bliss based on all of the evidence I have presented in front of you?
The evidence. Looking at the evidence with my CSI blue light.
Catching Alexa Bliss's tattoo.
Seeing just a tattoo and various semen, apparently.
Yep.
I don't know. It's one of those things, is like, I feel like this is almost one step too far to be tweeting that kind of stuff and liking a tweet that suggests she's sleeping with the higher-ups. I just feel like that is... You are going to be in a violation of some sort of policy with WWE immediately for doing that. Any suggestion that you're, shagging around to get a boost, I think they would be coming down on incredibly hard, and she would be straight out the door. I just don't feel like this is this has to be a signed off work to some degree for this to be fine. Mm-hmm. I think otherwise they're going to be like, this must. I know they're probably not a company that has HR, as we've discussed previously, but this has to violate some sort of you can't be doing that to everyone else.
Well, exactly. They are a company that are very hot on what people do on social media and the people that they interact with and the people that they respond to, and there are people often.
Well, they're very smart about it.
They're very smart about it. Absolutely, very smart about it. So it does seem like the sort of thing that when she liked that comment, that really would have probably put some hot water on her. Some theorist may want to... I mean, I'm not saying this, but some tinfoil hat people might want to say, that's why she lost the title. I don't know if that's the case, but
yeah.
I think that was more the Ronda thing than anything else. Yes. I think they booked themselves into a corner with that match, and they needed a way out.
Well, I think that's the... and that was the other point I was going to come to on this, is the idea with her dropping the title, the only person she could have lost it to was Alexa, because you can't give it to Ronda. Ronda needs to appear. She needs to be in something that seems meaningful. This is the corner you've booked yourself into. Alexa is the only way out of that corner that saves their big money prospect for the future, which is Ronda Rousey. So, unfortunately for Nia, she has to drop the title to Alexa, which obviously, probably for her, as someone who's clearly passionate about the business, it was very emotional when she won the title. It's gonna upset her, isn't it?
Yeah.
So maybe she has got backstage heat because she's probably been quite rightly upset about this. But unfortunately, this is just a fact of the business in this sense that something has happened that just means that she had to.
Yes, exactly.
She could have also got injured at some point, and she would have to, and you would be equally annoyed at that. It's just a shame that it's not her story that's booking her to have to lose her title. It's someone else's eventual rise. It's not even happening right now. We have to write her out for this. We have to write her out in Money in the Bank. Then we have to suspend her for long enough so she can come back and have a match that she's worked on and practiced or whatever. It's just a shame that all of that is about Ronda and not about Nia, and the only way for it to sort of work is that Nia has to drop the title that she's only just won, really.
Yeah, and that's it. And she very much, I feel bad for Nia in the sense that she very much is the third wheel in this feud at the moment.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, she is the challenger for the championship at Extreme Rules, but it's all being built on Ronda's return and Ronda getting her hands on Alexa Bliss. Like,
absolutely. Yeah.
Like, it feels like Nia really is she's a non-factor in this match.
Yeah.
Like, it may as well just be an angle rather than actually be a match.
Well, it's a shame because Alexa, I think, was the safe choice there. What I think WWE looked at that and they just went, let's just return to the status quo from pre-WrestleMania.
Well, yeah, I mean,
and that we know that works, so let's just do that.
Let's just do it again.
Oh, on Raw? Doing it again? No.
I know, beggars belief sometimes. So, I mean, the reports always were, and actually they've always said they were the best of friends. They were literally best friends in IRL. They were the bestest of buds. And some bits here and some bits there do make you go like, oh, is it a work? Is it a shoot? Is it this? Is it that? Meltzer's very, like, I wonder if either, as you say, he's sort of backtracking on these sorts of things. He's just said these things and be like, you know what, I'm not going to say anything else. Or is he just like which Meltzer often does, gathers more sources, gathers more information before he posts on something? Because I've known firsthand that there is stuff that Dave Meltzer knows for a fact, and that person who has said that fact is like saying this is what is happening. This is a fact from the horse's mouth. But he is not reporting it. To this day, I don't think he ever has reported it because he wanted to make sure he got some more information on it, got other people to kind of corroborate.
Well, it's
the
doing
news.
journalism
It's doing journalism rather than doing what we're doing.
Yeah, it was doing a journalism rather than speculating on people's social media posts. But
exactly, yeah,
that's what a ramble is for, and not a actual journalistic piece of coverage.
Exactly.
So back to the fray.
Yeah. So we'll wrap this up then before we move on to other topics. I mean, do you think that this is? I mean, where do you think this could be leading? If it is a work.
If it's a work, I think it's just sort of causing a little bit of friction before this match, the next match at Extreme Rules. But that's probably about it. I think it's just keeping it on the boil, and then the potential is down the line. Because I think Ronda's probably going to win the title at SummerSlam, I guess.
Yeah, SummerSlam seems like
It seems like the only thing, unless they're going to keep doing like, oh, you got suspended again. Like they could do that for ages, and then I guess you could put the title back on Nia at some point. But I think the like you said, the story here is going to be Alexa and Ronda, and some eventual mauling that happens.
Yes.
But yeah, I think Nia's probably, this is the other thing, is she's probably also just keeping herself in the picture. If she has gone off-piste with all of this stuff, she's just keeping herself in the conversation.
Yes. Off-piste, I think, is a perfect way to describe this. If she is going into business for herself, because none of this stuff that they have done here, I mean, obviously they wouldn't do the first thing with the Instagram stuff, but things like Nia unfollowing her on Twitter or Nia making these posts, like WWE would be all over that. Like Michael Cole would be spouting it on commentary and saying all this stuff, and they'd have worked it into the storyline. So that's the other side of me that thinks that maybe this is more leaning towards the shoot side of things than work. But at the same time, there isn't really enough to go on. All we've got is essentially Meltzer has posted 8 words across 2 forum posts for us to really build up a solid ground on. But I think it's very interesting.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens the next time we see Nia.
Yes.
On television. Because that's the thing. This could all be seeding, and then it will come out on Raw, and that's when we're going to get Michael Cole doing 200 lines about it.
Yes.
Over the top of a match or something, you know.
Not actually calling the match.
Yeah, not actually calling the match, just talking about Twitter instead. But maybe that's what's going to happen. Maybe this is all set up for some future plan, because we haven't seen Nia for a while. So I guess it, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Who knows? So often we get a lot of requests to talk more about 205 Live and NXT, particularly if there's a good match on. Like the last time we got a lot of requests was when they had these Cedric Alexander, Buddy Murphy Cruiserweight Championship match on NXT, and the 205 Live, and the 6-man from NXT last week. I haven't actually watched this week's NXT as of the time of this record. We're recording this on a Thursday. I haven't watched it yet, but I've been told that it's quite good. And my girl Dakota Kai has a match, so therefore it's a 5 out of 5 episode already. But
Bonza.
So But we thought we would talk about 205 Live.
And a man who, if Alexa has been sleeping her way to the top, is going to be pretty miffed.
Yeah, he might not be all happy with this. Yeah.
Turns out the best kept secret was not him.
Yes, it was her, allegations.
Yep.
So, it was, of course, Buddy Murphy versus Mustafa Ali in a no DQ match from this week's 205 Live. So if you are in the SmackDown audience for that week, this is more or less the main event that you got for the evening, because you got your 2-hour SmackDown, then you got the most exciting hour of television, according to Spud, according to Rockstar Spud. What's he calling himself these days?
Drake Maverick.
Jake Maverick, that's it, yeah.
Drake Maverick.
So Drake Maverick will always tell you it's this really awesome thing. So they had that hour then, and then they had, I believe, Sanity and Almas in a dark match, or Almas may have wrestled the earlier dark match, and I think Sanity had a dark match later in the evening. So, but that was technically the main event. But this was effectively the main event of television tapings for the night.
And do you know what? It should have been.
Yes, because
it was utterly fantastic.
This was a very good wrestling match.
Yeah, no, well, that's the thing, is like, because 205, I think, like, sometimes they struggle in the sense that some of their matches are a bit squashy, and it's a lot of like local competitors, or like this week it was Leo Rush coming out to watch Akira Tozawa have a pretty easy match, and then sort of interrupting at the end, setting up a bit of stuff. TJP
lost to Noam
Dar in seconds.
Yeah.
Noam Dar also looking fantastic, mate. Looking absolutely fantastic.
And I was gutted that I wasn't there for the second night of the UK Championship tournament when he made his return, and he's now the new number one contender for the United Kingdom champion. So
he's great.
Very happy for Noam Dar.
Yeah. So that was, they were both good, but they were story. They were just setting some stuff up, and then this match happens. But this was a number one contenders match, wasn't it?
Effectively, yeah. I don't know.
I think they suggested that Mustafa Ali would be next in line, but it was mostly for sort of bragging rights.
Yeah, I think it was the culmination of their feud, because Ali knocked him out of the Cruiserweight Championship tournaments, and then Murphy beat him in a number one contenders match to face Alexander after WrestleMania. And so this was sort of like seen as the rubber match. It was like to settle the score, but they were very much implying on commentary that whoever comes out of this is going to be, almost next in line to face against Alexander.
Well, they've had fantastic matches against Alexander as well already. So.
Having said that, like Hideo Itami is facing Alexander for the title next week, which I'd imagine Alexander will likely retain.
Yes, I think he's going to hold it for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, like in their feud, it had been quite extreme already, I think, and that was the setup. Is that the idea was that Mustafa Ali had almost broken Buddy Murphy's arm in the first match, and that's why he couldn't hit Murphy's Law, because he couldn't lift him.
Yeah,
and then he returned the favour to a degree in the next match, and then this no DQ match was to sort of let them get all the extreme stuff out of the way.
But they also still worked it quite smartly in telling a story, because the story of the match essentially was like they did a lot of crazy spots at the start, but then it was Buddy Murphy working over Ali's back in the same way that Ali had worked over Murphy's arm so he couldn't do Murphy's Law. He was working over his back so he couldn't do the his inverted 450.
Yeah,
the 054, and that actually played up later in the match. Ali got the advantage and then couldn't climb, and he actually had to find another way instead to beat him. And there were some pretty crazy spots within this. Like with the opening seconds, Ali had done a moonsault off the top rope to the outside.
It was
a front flip. From the top rope to the outside before the bell had even rung.
Yeah.
So this was like
some of the spots were just. I feel it was so inventive as well. It was seeing people do something like the steps is such a. I think the steps are boring normally. Like people just do push you in the steps. I'll do a move where I'll do a Superman punch where I jump off the steps. I'll a little bit of that sort of stuff. Or you pick them up and you bash people with them.
Yeah.
Everything they did with the steps wasn't that.
No,
it was just all very clever working with one bit of equipment, and then obviously the table later on. But there was they initially sort of put them in the ring, and then Murphy does a sliding drop kick into it, knocking it into Ali. He then runs into the ropes, flips off the steps over the top to the outside,
big old flip dive,
which is just incredible. They set them up in the corner like they normally do with a table, and they spend about 5 minutes throwing each other into it.
Yep.
They did a superplex off the top of them.
Yeah, so
which required a lot of referee holding.
It very much.
It was.
The referee was essentially had to hold this. I was going, get down from there, holding it up
with one foot over it, like get down.
It's like that AJ. I can't remember which AJ Styles match it was now, but there was a moment when he ripped up the mats around the ring, but he couldn't get it to stay up, so the referee essentially had to stand on the mats for him, like because he folded it over so he could stand there and go like, "No, don't do a move on there." It's like, mate, you're letting him do it.
You're holding.
You're
it
helping him. So the referee had to very much hold it.
So when they always hold the ladders as well, and I was like sneakily holding the ladders, being like, "Go down!"
And they did this big old superplex off the top of the steps, which ended up being higher than the ropes itself. So it was actually a very, very impressive spot. And the end of it actually saw Ali do this big old sort of tornado DDT
from the top of the
like
steps,
tilt-a-whirl DDT off the steps to win the match. Very, very cool match. The crowd weren't massively into it though. They kind of popped for big
stuff. They got. I think they were into it, but they were also being too much of a. They were trying to be a personality, and it was like you need to calm down.
I think what 205 Live often suffers from, and this is not exactly the hottest take in the world, is that because it's taped after SmackDown, everyone has seen technically all the stars.
Yeah.
Because SmackDown is the one that's on TV. 205 Live isn't. The Cruiserweights aren't featured on Raw anymore. They're not featured. They've never been featured on SmackDown. So these guys that come out, like Akira Tozawa comes out, the large portion of this crowd aren't going to be the hardcore fan base that subscribe to the network and are then hardcore enough to not only subscribe to the network but also watch 205 Live.
Yeah, and you can see that as well because he tries to get the chant started, and it doesn't go anywhere anymore.
Yeah.
Like it used to get, like at least when just after the Cruiserweight Classic and just as they were appearing on Raw more and more frequently, people were into it. People did it.
Yeah, exactly. And he was champion. He was with Titus Worldwide.
Yeah.
They were into it then, but he hasn't been on TV, completely cooled off. Same thing with Noam Dar. Like Noam Dar makes his big return, and
it's flat. Yeah.
It's flat. The only way that TJP was getting heat is because he was saying this town smells.
Yeah,
and,
he was. Yeah.
And crowds often booed that. And it was quite evident during this match because although the action was really great, this crowd just kept chanting for tables. They were just like, and it was really funny. So it was my favorite part of the match, but for all the wrong reasons, because it was just like, this crowd sucks. So they're stacking up these stairs and they're doing all these spots with the stairs. The crowd are chanting A, we want tables, and then B started chanting no more stairs.
No more stairs.
No more stairs, because they were tired quote of seeing stair spots. They wanted to see table spots. Then when they did the stairs spot, they chanted, this is awesome. Yeah. I was like, so it turns out you didn't want tables, did you? And you actually wanted
stairs.
You did want a stairs spot. So the crowd wasn't very good, but they popped for all the big moments and things like that. So that helps matters.
It's a show, like I've said this before, and we were talking about this just before we came in, that it would be so good if 205 was just filmed at Full Sail. And I think it would be better for everyone. Like it doesn't need to be. Obviously, then they would have to fill the other hour of the live event that they're doing when they do SmackDown. But it would be so much better as a product if it was just done at Full Sail.
Or recording it before SmackDown. So the crowd are hot anyway because they're all excited to be at the show.
Well, the problem is people are still trickling in, though. That's if people know it's first and SmackDown isn't actually starting for an hour, they'll just do what I do at the cinema, which is I'm not coming in. Yeah. I'm just going to come in when the film starts.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
if I don't want to watch the trailers this week, I'm coming in when the film starts.
Well, when we went to go see Raw in London, when they were over here just after WrestleMania,
I remember it well.
We decided that we were just going to go to Five Guys and get burgers rather than watch main events. Because
why wouldn't you? Yeah.
The queues were quieter for starters, and it's main event. I mean, we did miss the Authors of Pain, So
I was gutted about that.
So there is always that. But so I think there is always that worry about it as well. But I think the place is usually quite full. So that is an option is to do it before SmackDown. But the more preferred option, which I'm with you on this one, is taping it at Full Sail. Yeah. Because that Full Sail crowd is 100% filled with the hardcore fans that subscribe to the network, and not only subscribe to the network, but also watch 205 Live and NXT. Because you've got to remember as well that although there are 1.3 million subscribers, I think that's the number, it might be something like that, 1.3, maybe 1.5, roughly, I don't know, maybe half of that audience probably watch NXT.
Yeah.
Maybe even less than that.
I think most people are there for pay-per-views. That's it. Most people have this. Like, I got my subscription initially just for pay-per-views.
Yes.
And then it's since branched out into everything, and obviously, like, doing this, you have to watch everything. So,
yeah.
That's kind of how it all started. But I think also with 205, if it was at Full Sail, I think there's just a better quality of audience reaction in a smaller venue.
Yes.
And I just think, like, it's not even, saying, "Oh, big crowds are nasty," like, or horrible people. It's like, actually, just because you're in a stadium, the ripples of the way that chants go, because there's pockets of people rather than the whole crowd doing something. So yes, when Daniel Bryan comes out and everyone's going yes, 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 it sounds amazing. But if only a few people are into it, it doesn't sound like anything, because it's so like it'll be people up the back saying it, and those mics aren't going to pick it up. Full Sail, everyone gets into it because there's just less people in a more confined space, and it feels like more of an atmosphere as an audience. I personally, as like someone who would go to an indie show anyway, I always find they have much more atmosphere than seeing WWE in a stadium, because seeing WWE in a stadium feels so distant and vacant. And if they haven't got a Titantron up, like for a WWE live event or whatever, it's even worse, because you're only watching the ring. You can't really see what the action is because you're miles away, because that's the size of venue that they are booking things in.
Exactly, and I think something like this Ali Buddy Murphy match, if this had happened on a takeover, if this had happened in Full Sail, this would have been like, everyone would have been talking about this match as like one of the best matches WWE have put on all year. Now, it
definitely is.
And I've seen a lot of, there were a lot of people on the Wrestling Observer boards that were saying like it's, the third best match of the year behind the Gargano Ciampa matches. I'm not sure if I'd put it up that high.
I'd say it's probably like top 5. There's a lot of stuff in TakeOver that's been very good.
Yeah, exactly, like the ladder match, and I really enjoyed.
And then the UK Championship has also usurped some of that steam as well. Like the 6-man tag in that is incredible.
So I think that it would possibly, I enjoyed it more than I did the Cedric Alexander title match, because you had all the big spots and all the big so one of the spots in the match, which we haven't actually talked about yet, is, so they set up the table, the announcer's table, and then Buddy Murphy is on the guardrail that's behind the table,
looking like he's going to do some sort of splash on Ali, who's prone.
And Ali runs up, jumps onto the table, jumps onto the barricade, then does a Spanish fly off the barricade onto the table, which doesn't break, and it's just like, oh, it looked rough, and then it just sort of like crunched and fell to the floor, and I was like, well, I feel like that table was supposed to break and hopefully break that fall, but actually it looked like it hurt so much more.
Well, because they'd done a Spanish fly off the announce table in their previous match onto the floor.
Yes, this was taking it to the next step.
It's an unbelievable match, and I think it's so worth watching. But I wish it had the audience for it, because it's just if that had just been on SmackDown in end of the first hour of SmackDown, people would have gone nuts.
Yeah, exactly.
If people just knew who those two guys are a bit more.
That's it. If the audience were into the guys themselves, they therefore would have been into all the spots as well. And I think that is why 205 Live, it's not getting the aplomb that it possibly deserves, because it just doesn't have an audience that particularly cares. For example, during that match, after those big spots, when the chants of "This is awesome" happen, they sound so quiet, to your point, because it's in a large arena and not everyone is doing it. So then it just sounds like 5 lads are doing it.
Yeah.
Which doesn't sound like, you're saying it's awesome, but it doesn't sound like it's awesome.
No, exactly.
Only 5 of you out of 25,000 people think, or 15,000 people think it is.
Well, exactly. And I think that the other problem is that because people don't, if you've paid to go to this event, some people just write it off. Like, I know for a fact that when I've been to see Raw before, if it's a match, if someone comes out and I'm like, no, I'm not bothered about watching that, go get a beer.
Go get
a beer and then come back, because it's better to do it when there's not a break. Go and do it in a match, because there's less people getting the beers. So you go get a beer.
That's why you get a Five Guys when main event's on.
Yeah, exactly. If you just go, okay, well, Buddy Murphy, I don't know who he is. Mustafa Ali, I've seen him on WrestleMania or whatever. Not that bothered. Go get a beer.
Exactly. Yeah,
and you just missed. Yeah. But what did you miss? Something utterly incredible.
Yeah, you missed a really, really good match, and it's amazing as well, because 205 Live often starts with these crowd shots. Like it says, like, welcome to the most exciting era of WWE TV or what have you. Always people filing out the arena. Like, I don't know why they always film all these people just leaving.
Just make it its own thing. It just needs to be its own thing. Yeah. It needs to have. Also, I'd love to see it have pay-per-views. I would love to see it do the opposite program to TakeOver, and when so maybe because TakeOver's normally before the Big Four and all that kind of stuff. Like, let's just have 205 in front of the other ones.
Yeah, or feature them more on shows. Like, let them have Raw matches and not do what they did last time. Because unfortunately, I think the Cruiserweight 205 Live has still got the stink of it, of the old 205 Live, which was when they were on Raw having 3-minute matches that no one cared about. Which is understandable, because it's a 3-minute match. Like, it's hard to get into 3-minute matches. They weren't showing any of the characters. They were just, here's a bunch of lads, they do some flips. And you get that for 3 minutes, and then they're out the way. Don't bother watch 205 Live because there's an out on it.
Yeah.
Now the show, since Triple H has taken over and they've moved away from the Enzo Amore thing, they're like, no, well, let's make this a wrestling show made for wrestling fans that's not the main WWE audience. But there is a portion of that WWE audience that would like to see wrestling that aren't getting it on Raw and SmackDown. And you could entice those people to either subscribe into the network and watch the show.
I think you dropped the live thing. And I think
absolutely
rename it as well. I don't think 205 Live. No one really knows what the 205 means. Obviously it's the weight limit, but people don't care. You could call it the cruiserweight belt without going, there's a really strict weight limit. I don't think anyone's going to be no one's going, well, you're too small to be the heavyweight champ. You know, obviously the championships are now World or WWE and Universal, but give the belt some sort of different name instead as well. Let's not make it about weights or classes or whatever. It's about high flying. Give the show a more, poppy name.
Yeah.
Don't film it live. Film it at Full Sail. Have a new belt. Have a new title.
And the last thing I was saying as well, it would probably be cheaper. Doing a block booking of tapings like they do with NXT would save them so much money because you're not flying these lads out to do the live tapings for the show. But also, you're not broadcasting it live. And you've got time to edit things as well, and you could make a more polished show out of it.
Yeah.
And you'd have a much hotter crowd.
But then that's the thing, and then they can still fill that extra hour in the SmackDown recording.
Yeah.
So when you just don't have to film that bit. You just, you can still have those guys come out, but then people might actually know who they are because they're seeing them in this other show that's well produced.
Yeah.
And doesn't have a really flat audience. It doesn't feel like it's just nothing's happening.
If you are a first-time viewer to this show, Crap Gimmicks is our fun little segment where you, the audience, the SWAF Nation, get in touch with us and let us know your crap gimmicks that you want us to sign to Crap Gimmick Wrestling. So far, we've had a good slew of suggestions. We had some incredible suggestions last week, including Haiku and all these other great ones. There's been really, really great stuff over the last few weeks. But if you do want to send me your crap gimmick, it's luke@wrestletalk.com. But remember, as I always say, I've got a huge backlog of them, so if I don't get to yours, it's because I'm trying to work through the backlog.
You've got a backlog.
I've got such a backlog, and no doubt that once this episode goes live, I'll have another 100 come through. So I will get through to them. But what I have found as a bit of housekeeping, in terms of when you're coming up with your character name, a common trend, a common pitfall that people often walk into.
Is it name first, then try and work out what the gimmick is?
Well, I don't think that's necessarily an issue. Also, if you are new, crap gimmick is something like you are a wrestler and a blank, or 90s WWF. What people tend to do is they try to write these heel characters based on things that they personally don't like. And a way to make sure you know they're a heel is to put the third on the end. So you give them a name, and then you put the third. Just by putting the third makes them a heel.
Posh people are heroes.
Well, of course they are. They're the people that rule everything, ergo are the best people.
Yeah. Duh.
Case in point, Dan Hewer has sent in Hugo J. Zachary III. He is a hipster and hails from Soho. That's an area in London where hipsters essentially live.
Do you think that means... Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Yeah. He wears flannel shirts with braces and tight denim jeans with Doc Marten boots and lensless thick rim glasses. He has a man bun... I'm just going to use man bun. You've written a man bug. A man bun and a thick beard. He also carries a certain coffee shop mug down to the ring with him. His music is some obscure folk song that he changes every time it starts to get over. He's all about the grams, even posting pictures of fallen rivals. His finisher is a basic DDT, which he has given a ridiculously elaborate name. He ends all of his promos by screaming his catchphrase, "I am not a hipster." Now, to me, this just seems down that you hate hipsters.
Yeah. I'm also going to say, factually, he hails from Soho, not traditionally the hipster area of London, that being Shoreditch or Camden. Camden's more like a punk rocky area. Shoreditch is the hipster area. Soho is the gay area. So, I mean, he's got the flannel shirt.
Hey, man, I like a flannel shirt. Flannel shirts are lovely.
Yeah, the Doc Martens, the tight denim jeans. He's got the sort of... He can fit in there as well.
Yes.
Which is all I'm saying.
To be honest, this
I
to me...
don't know what to make of it.
Well, to be honest, this doesn't really feel like much of a gimmick. This is very much just, I hate hipsters, so I'm just going to write something that's really horrible against hipsters.
Well, yeah, exactly.
And the crowd will also hate them because I don't like them.
Well, the problem is, if you were a hipster, I would say, he shouldn't be shouting he's not a hipster. He should just be living it in that sense. if he's going to be an actual hipster, come down to the ring and say everyone's move, you did it first. You were into that move.
Yes.
You were into that move when it, like, in 1990 or whatever, like that kind
Love
of thing. Like,
that, yeah.
That's more. I like the idea of the song changing. I like the idea of, like, every time it starts to get over, you don't like it. Like any of that stuff. Like it's playing on the expectation of the hipster to not like things if other people like them. So that's. He almost shouldn't like himself if he ever gets over, that kind of thing. That you need to take it to that nth degree.
Yeah, and I think that's where the gimmick sort of falls down, is that you haven't come up with an idea for reasons why people hate them, other than the fact he has a man bun and drinks from Starbucks, I guess, or he drinks coffee.
He wouldn't drink from Starbucks, not a hipster these days. Not.
Oh yeah, it's far
It has to be. It has to be an independent, little independent label.
All right, mind your tea.
Cheers myself.
George McCall has emailed in his crab gimmick. My idea is a tag team. I hope you enjoy it. All right, so this one's quite confusing, but bear with me. The first man on the team is called Gug. He was picked on all of his life because he's the world's smallest giant. He's around 5'10", and spent his entire life as an outcast because all other giants called him Shorty, but all the normies called him a tall freak. He was friendless all his life until he met a kindred spirit in wrestling school, also named Gug. However, the capital G is at the end, which he said you may notice that it's Gug spelt backwards, G-U-G. And this Gug, with the capital G at the end, was also shunned by society due to being the world's tallest midget, around 5'10". Not sure midget is the politically correct term. The two instantly bonded over this and formed the unstoppable tag team Little and Large. Their finisher is a giant swing into a small package.
This is melting my melon, man. What is this? Why is he getting called? Why are the normies calling him a tall freak at 5'10"?
I mean, I'm 5'10". Ain't no one calling me tall. Like, no one in this world is saying that I am a giant.
5'10"
like
is tiny.
my wife is 5 foot. She's probably about the only person in the world who goes like, "You're a bit tall." I'm nearly a foot taller than her. Yeah. So yeah, there's. It's kind of like it's a really odd idea. I kind of like it though. This idea of being the world's smallest giant and the world's tallest midget.
I think it's better as a solo thing. I think it's almost like it's almost the Bob Holly gimmick. But
the big shot.
Well, no, I mean like the being a super heavyweight.
Yeah,
thing. So carrying your scales down and being like, oh, no, I actually weigh this much. But obviously that was more lying.
Yeah, I'm the same height as the big
I
show.
like the idea of being, I'm the same height as, like, just having blind belief that you are.
Yeah.
Is actually better than being billed as 5'10" and the world's smallest giant. Like, you should just believe you are a giant.
Yeah.
Much better.
Yeah.
Not as crap, but much better.
Exactly, yeah. That might just be a gimmick.
It is crap.
It is, yeah. So, and finally, from Nathan, we have the Video Man with VCR, which is his manager, Vic C. Roberts. The Video Man is an 80s, 90s inspired video rental shop worker, dressed in various 80s and 90s movies t-shirts, with a smock vest on top with his name badge, the Video Man, ripped jeans, and a pair of scruffy Converse. No idea who could look something like that in this studio. Not that I'm wearing Converse at the moment. He has short spiky hair in a classic 90s style with frosted tips. Think Randall from Clerks meets Randy from Scream. Two great films if you've not seen them. Vic C. Roberts, better known by his unwanted nickname VCR, is his stooge and a mere job's worth kind of employee. He has smart hair, smart pants, smart shoes, and shirt tucked in with his vest buttoned up. He follows Video Man around, trying to do what he can to be more cool, and he carries a remote control around in his belt. So Video Man's entrance starts with a video. It's an alarm clock sounding, and the Video Man then hops up out of bed and is in his ring gear. The video then freezes, and someone has pressed tracking to try and fix it, and then his music comes in and all sounds all warped. Sound like you used to get funny on a VHS. He then walks to the ring, followed by VCR, and his finisher is the Blockbuster, for obvious reasons. When a match isn't going his way, he rewinds the match by signaling to VCR to press rewind on the remote control so he can try and do it better again. This seemingly refreshes him to his previous state. If he is finding he can't be bothered, e.g. because it's meant to be his day off, I'm not supposed to be here today, he gets VCR to hit fast forward on the remote control, which often to try and get the match end quickly, so he'll go for his finisher early, but that often results in a fail.
I like the remote bit. I think that's quite fun.
I like the entrance.
It's a very indie style thing to just be like, let's just redo and then just rewind everything. I like that's quite fun. That would work really nicely.
You have turned repeating spots into an art form.
Yeah. Just keep doing it.
Yeah. I think that's really nice, actually. Doing the things like, you could have it with VCR on the outside. Like, if he does a really big, impressive move, VCR would be like, oh, do it again, and holding the remote, almost like a manager would be, and like, stay on him, do it again. And he could do the big move again and knock his opponents down. And as I said, I really like the entrance idea. We like the tracking and the VCR sounds. You can hear the clunk of the VCR going in. Oh, I've missed that sound. They would and then pressing the play, like, and everything going up. And he said, like, his catchphrase can be kind, rewind, and all that sort of stuff.
There's a lot of thought gone into a lot of it, except the man's name,
which is just the video man.
The video man.
Yeah, it does need a better name.
He would be better off as Big C Roberts.
Yeah, Big C Roberts.
He'd be better off as him.
And then the other guy can be like give him a real dweeby name, like a typical like an 80s 90s dweeb.
But he doesn't need a manager. He could just have the remote himself. Like it does.
Oh no, I quite like the idea of the manager.
What, someone else controlling it completely?
Yeah, sort of like
the viewer. Someone you could just give it to someone from the audience who's a stooge, and then they could just do it.
So I really like the video man. I do think he needs a better name, and that's something that maybe we can work on. But as it stands, of the crop that we've been given today, I think it's the best of the three, and I'd be quite happy to sign the video man to Crap Gimmick Wrestling. So
I would sign the video man.
So we are going to sign him. We've officially shaken it now, and he's signed. And finally, it's the mailbag. If you've got your questions or you want to send any questions to us, all you have to do is become a pledge hammer by pledging to us on Patreon at any level you want. Doesn't matter what level you are at. You can put a question up on our wicked community we've got over there, and we will read it out in the Saturday WrestleRamble. Dun, 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 dun. Much like this lad here, Connor Curran. You're trapped on a desert island with 4 wrestlers. Who do you want and why?
Who do I want?
Now, this is an interesting one because he hasn't specified, like, what that you're doing on the desert island.
Yeah, are
with
they
these
wrestling, or are they just keeping me alive?
Exactly, or are they there to keep me company?
Yeah.
Because if they're keeping me company, that's very different to who I might want if they just put on wrestling matches. Although if you are seeing only 4 people doing the same, they might just end up doing the same matches over and over again.
I'm going to assume that it's for survival purposes.
Okay.
And I'm going to pick number 1, Braun Strowman.
Yep.
Because if there's anything dangerous,
I mean, he is a woodsman.
He will have, and also, he is a woodsman. by his own admission. I will have that man because he will scare off anything.
Yeah, that's very true, actually. Yeah, if like any dinosaurs come up to you on this desert island.
If it's Kong Island, Skull Island. If it's Skull Island, then they'll sort that out.
Then his big T-Rex comes around and goes, all right, mate. All right, calm down.
With tiny hands.
Calm down.
Sorry.
Okay, so Braun's a good
I've got
pick.
Braun Strowman. What else do I want?
Yeah, I came at this from a very different angle.
Yeah,
because I didn't come at this from a wrestling angle either. I came at this like who I would have the most fun with, which isn't too dissimilar to the question we've had in previous weeks about who would be on your pub quiz team.
Yes.
And my first thought was like, and I always go to this one, Ember Moon. Because she plays D&D, which means we could just play D&D.
You can just play D&D. That is a great choice.
Exactly, because one of us can play change Dungeon Master. We can all come up with our own quests. That will fill so much time because you can play D&D for weeks on end and never get anywhere.
Absolutely. If I was gonna, and I think if it was people who could keep you company, I would make my next 2 choices would probably be then Kevin Owens, because I think he's just fantastically funny and such an interesting guy, and then Xavier Woods as well for the exact same reasons.
Yes, that's a great shout.
Both of them, I think, would be like endless company.
Yeah, Woods. I was going to say it was going to be in my party as well. What a great guy he would have, be to have around. Like he would just be all this fun, all this energy, and all this excitement. Like you'd never get bored.
No, absolutely.
So so those are definitely 2 people that I would have on my island with me. So who else? I can't think of anyone else that plays D&D. I mean, Woods would easily get into it.
Yeah.
I don't know if he does play Dungeons and Dragons, but he seems like the sort of person that would be very open to the idea of...
Who's going to be Dungeon Master, Luke? Who's going to be Dungeon Master?
I would definitely pick Xavier Woods.
Xavier Woods, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know I've never asked Ember Moon. I've never met her before, but it would be my first question. If I ever got the opportunity to interview Ember Moon, it would be A, favourite class, B, favourite race,
Ranger,
and C, are you a good DM? Like, what kind of DM are you? Are you chaotic neutral? Are you?
You've gone way in depth there. Are you chaotic neutral? Everyone is chaotic neutral because it's much easier. You don't have to decide if you're good or evil. No. You just crack on.
And as the wind
and then
takes
the excuse is, Well, I just did what I felt like, and that's what it says in the book. It says that in the book. I've seen it in the player's handbook. You just do that. It's fine.
So I'm trying to think who. So you got one more name to pick.
I do.
Braun's a really good. In fact, I'm going to take Braun on mine as well for the same reasons of like almost a protective, almost like your protective guard dog. Really.
Yeah,
so
that's
like,
the thing is that I don't want to like. I don't know because he like. I don't want to be like, oh, I'm now picking a woman because
you haven't got one.
Well, because I haven't got one, and also because if we're trapped on an island and you're going through all the things, we can start a society.
Yes.
I don't want to do that,
Ooh,
but
yeah.
I will. Sasha Banks because I love her. So.
And in which case, then I'll pick the person I'm really into at the moment, I really like, and I just think she just seems really nice. It's Dakota Kai.
Dakota
I think
Kai.
she'd be lovely to
She's
hang
too
around
nice.
with.
She's too nice.
No, you're
She'd
right.
Get you all killed.
She's too nice. Would all end up dead.
Yeah, that's the thing.
At least with Emma Moon,
we
she's
can't eat that.
At least with Emma Moon, she's a war goddess.
Yeah, exactly.
Like she'll be there with Braun scaring off the T-Rexes.
Well, unless she's such a war goddess that she starts a sort of Lord of the Flies separate
oh
society.
no, she's that one.
And then you get to be Piggy.
That's a great deep pull from Lord of the Flies.
Yeah.
There's not enough chat on Lord of the Flies on a wrestling show.
No, there's not. Just make sure you've got the conch at all times.
I went to see a play of that once. My local Amdram production of Lord of the Flies, and the kid who played. Because it's Ralph is the guy with the conch, and he's the one who's like the original leader before the other like tribe sort of split away. But and it's Piggy, the lad.
Piggy's the lad with the glasses who falls off the thing.
And he's spoilers is the one that gets killed.
Yeah.
But he had this voice. He's like, Ralph, we've got to have rules, Ralph. That voice is stuck in my head. I saw that when I was like 16.
Oh.
I'm 32, and I can still picture that guy up on stage because me and my mates were laughing about it for weeks on end.
Oh.
Bless his
Shouldn't laugh at Lord of the Flies.
No, you shouldn't. It's a tragic tale.
That's definitely not what William Golding had in mind.
It's like, well, this will be a funny romp for school children to laugh at in years to come.
It's fine. They all get off in the end, except Piggy.
This is right, so this is from James J. Dillon. Watching the second season of Glow, brackets, highly recommended, and really felt that Kia Stevens, who plays Welfare Queen and is probably better known to wrestling fans as the former Awesome Kong and Karma in WWE, has really emerged as a great actress. I wasn't sure how she would fit in as she's the only trained wrestler in the cast of actors and actresses, but I really enjoyed watching her. Have you seen Glow?
I've seen the first series. I haven't started watching the second yet.
Oh, it's great.
I haven't got around to it.
It's really, really
I really
good.
loved the first season.
First season was so awesome. I loved the first season anyway. And then they had a section where they were training to Dare by Stan Bush off the Transformers soundtrack.
I was like,
well, obviously this is now the best
Better
thing.
believe
You
can survive.
I was like, well, clearly this is the best show that Netflix have ever done.
Yeah, and also because the theme music is Warrior.
Yes.
The Warrior, and it's great.
I think
Scandal.
I think it's a tremendous show. And I agree with James Dillon as well that I think that Kia Stevens, she's got a really great episode in season 2 where they very much address the racism around the character of Welfare Queen. And it's a really, and they sort of do a lot of duality between that and Debbie as Southern Belle. No, I can't remember what her character's name is now.
Liberty Bell.
Liberty Bell, thank you, well done. You could tell that I've been watching this recently.
Yes, yeah, and I haven't.
Exactly.
Funny that.
Yeah. So they did there was lots of good duality stuff with that, and she is really, really good. I mean, you'd expect wrestlers to be good actors because essentially they are acting at the moment.
Yes.
But we've seen a lot of wrestlers go into films and not be good.
Well, she was interesting in the first season because she was obviously like not really main cast, but everything she was in, she was fantastic in, and she, like as you would expect a wrestler to do, did the character perfectly.
Yes.
And yeah, it would be. I'm looking forward to seeing this. Obviously, like her a bit more coming to the fore in season 2, so I'll definitely be watching that.
Absolutely. And if you want to see more or hear more from her, she did a really interesting interview with Mark Maron on his WTF podcast. Mark Maron, who's in Glow, he plays the guy who he's the director. They do a really, really good retrospective of her career because Mark Maron, not a wrestling fan, and almost on set learned that she was a wrestler. And was like, oh, wow, let's just sit down and you can tell me your stories. Because then she tells him stories like, wow, really? Is that what happens in wrestling? And it's fascinating to hear a non-wrestling fan interview a wrestler about the wrestling world. Yeah. It's really, really good.
The show's cool, I think, just because it's the right level of reverent for the business, but also willing to expose backstage bits, and I think because obviously they weren't mega successful in the beginning, all this other stuff, and it's a very interesting look at
very
wrestling,
interesting.
of
Yeah.
a specific era of wrestling as well. It's
Exactly,
super
yeah.
cool.
And I don't know if it is still on, but the Netflix did do a documentary about the actual
I've watched that, yeah,
yes,
yeah.
which is excellent. It's really, really good. That's very emotional towards the end.
Yeah.
Ivory.
The reunion and stuff in that.
Yeah,
is-
yeah.
oh my God.
I've WWE Hall of Famer Ivory she was a Glow alumni. That's where she got her start. And it's if that documentary is still on Netflix, I would also highly recommend that. And if you're not watching Glow, get on it. It's really, really great. Not just because Stan Bush's Dare is in there,
But mostly.
but mostly because you just get to see an extra montage, and that's a montage with Carlito as well. I think it's Carlito and John Morrison. They're the two wrestlers.
Oh yeah,
And
Christopher Daniels is in it at one point, isn't he?
Yeah, Alex Riley is in there. Alex Riley gets to do some acting. He gets to do some acting in the
Joey
first
Ryan
series.
was in it, wasn't he? At some
Yes,
point
Joey
as well? He
Ryan was
makes
in
a
it as
brief
well.
appearance.
Yeah, Carlito plays the brother of one of the the female wrestlers in Glow, because her family are all wrestlers. So they always look to her for how to actually be wrestlers. But lastly, we've got this email in from Chris Smith. Is there a universally beloved wrestler that either you are just not a fan of or don't get the appeal of? To level the playing field, and this is where I've allowed to start to boil a bit, I will confess I'm not a huge fan of Hiroshi Tanahashi. Ooh. Don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to get heat or be a contrarian. I respect that he's one of the best in the world and is clearly a megastar, but for some reason I've never been able to invest in him fully. I'm not sure if it's more my fault than his, but I just don't get him. What in your mind, with that in mind, who do you guys, quote, just not get? Hiroshi Tanahashi is a man that just for his hair alone you should think is the best man in the world, because he's got the most luscious hair of anyone. There's an amazing Twitter thread, I wish I could find it again, it made me laugh, of is a woman who had never seen wrestling before, barely had heard of wrestling, and she found a picture of Hiroshi Tanahashi and was just like, oh my god, this guy has had every hairstyle I've ever had, but has done it so much better than I ever did. And people were just sending her pictures of Hiroshi Tanahashi like, this guy is an idol, look at his hair.
Yeah, it should be a model for Vidal Sassoon.
So, is there a universally beloved wrestler that you are just not a fan of?
Oh.
It's an interesting one, because there are in the comments I see there are a lot of people who really don't like Daniel Bryan or really don't like Shinsuke Nakamura.
Yeah,
and they are just
I can see why.
Yeah, Nakamura in particular, because I think he came in with such buzz and such anticipation, and a lot of people didn't watch him in NXT. People didn't watch him in New Japan, and they just saw him when he got to the main roster and just heard all of this hype and anticipation around it, and then he had a pretty rough first year.
He was flubbed on the main roster.
Exactly.
But he was fantastic in NXT and he was fantastic in New Japan.
Exactly. But I think that's now sort of tainted a lot of people's views on what Shinsuke can do. And it's just I just think he's overrated.
Yes.
And he is, almost by his own admission, playing a very much a downplayed version of Shinsuke. He went to WWE because he doesn't have to stay at the same level he was at in New Japan when he was working at a 10 all the time. Now he could just work a 5.
Yeah,
you could just work a 5 or even a 4 and a 3 at all times, and then occasionally get to pay-per-view and work a 6.
Well, that's the thing,
that's fine.
You don't want to just spend your life getting stiffly kicked in the back.
Well,
do you?
exactly,
That's what New Japan is. It's just going, just have that. Go on.
Exactly. He's at a certain age now, and he's like, do you know what? I just don't want to be headbutted by Ishii anymore. It's just
it's fine.
It's too much.
Not everyone wants to. It's cool, man.
Exactly.
It's cool. Take it easy. Take a load off. Get that WWE.
Just going to take it easy there for a little bit. So I'm trying to think if there's a universally beloved wrestler. I've said this before, and I've drawn some heat from this, but Okada doesn't really do it for me. I appreciate, and I've always said, he is clearly the best wrestler in the world. Critical acclaim, he is clearly the best wrestler in the world. There's no arguing against that, really. Or, if he's not the best, he is among the top 5. But for me, he does very little for me. I get more invested in the people that he's facing off against than I do Okada himself.
Yeah.
I was more into Naito at Wrestle Kingdom. I was more into Kenny Omega. I was more into Tanahashi. All of these opponents he had, even when he was against Will Ospreay and Zack Sabre Jr. earlier this year, I was more into those guys than I was against Okada. But having said that, whenever you get blank versus Okada, I'm like, oh cool, I want to see that match.
Oh, it's going to be a great match.
It's going to be a great match. So clearly there is something that he does.
So clearly you're wrong.
So yeah, 100% I am wrong, and it's nothing to do with him, and it's all to do with me. But if you do say it is if, for example, they announce tomorrow Matt Riddle is versing Okada, I'm like, sweet.
I'm in.
I'm so in, because I love Matt Riddle, and I would love to see him have a match with Okada. If they announce Keith Lee versus Okada, I'd have been all over it. So I think Okada is the name I'm going to go with. Because I don't think there is really any other universally beloved wrestler that I'm not that into.
There's a few people, like, for different reasons that, well, mostly just because I don't think, like, Matt Hardy, I think, is one that I've spoken about before.
Yeah, that's actually a very good shout.
Matt Hardy, I don't get it. Like, I liked what he was doing with the character, and I love all the sort of meta stuff, but he's not doing that anymore, and he's not a very good wrestler anymore, sadly.
He has slowed down a lot.
But the thing is, even when the Hardys were a thing, he wasn't the most interesting Hardy. There's only two of them. And, like, you know, sadly, he's never been the big ticket item, and I find billing him as this big ticket item has never quite worked.
I mean, it's better than billing him as Matt Hardy, the less interesting Hardy.
Yes, coming out as the less interesting Hardy.
Should have been his gimmick instead of V1. Matt Hardy is actually a really good shout. I took a lot of heat earlier this year when I didn't think that the deletion match that they did with Bray Wyatt I thought it was fine. That's where it all came from. I thought it was fine.
Your catchphrase.
I thought it was just plain fine. A 3 out of 5 segments. That's up, and it was fine. But I drew quite a bit of heat for that. But when it comes to Matt Hardy, I always think about, like, I don't see that Matt. I see WrestleMania X7 Matt Hardy. I see WrestleMania 2000, SummerSlam 2000 Matt Hardy. That's where my mind instantly goes. So I think that's probably why Matt doesn't pop into my head when this sort of question comes up. But I am more into that Matt Hardy than I am this Matt Hardy.
Yeah, this current iteration I'm not into. But I think he's become universally beloved recently. Yes. I think that's kind of, so actually, I find it very hard to get into.
That's the same with Jeff, I suppose. Like, I think Jeff's an incredible wrestler and he's very, very good, but I'm less excited about Jeff Hardy matches than I would have been 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
I view him as sort of an old school WWE star, and obviously he'll always get championships and that, but as a singles competitor, I'm not that bothered. I think he works better in chaos as well. Like he always looks better in matches where there are more people and more stuff happening, and like I think they're both of them. Their reintroduction at WrestleMania, where they won the titles in that ladder match, was like, oh, this is a really cool homecoming, but it works because there's so many other things going on that you can kind of cover up all the bits where the Hardys, might just be doing the same old bits over and over again.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like Matt's my worst Matt Hardy thing of all time is the clothesline bulldog in the corner. Yeah. I just really hate it. I really hate it. Like, it's the turn he does. That's the most annoying bit. It's the clothesline, and then off he runs.
I thought the only other name I can think of that I do think it is mostly universally loved, is The Miz. So I think that The Miz is a great promo. I think The Miz is a great heel. But I am never excited for a Miz match. And actually, I mean, I've said this on the WrestleRamble Extra as well, although I'm starting to turn a bit of a corner on this one. I was also the same about Triple H when I was a teenager as well, and when I was a kid.
I've never got Triple H.
Yeah, I clearly, and I've always said, he is an incredible wrestler. He is someone who can map out a story and tell a story so well in the ring. But I never get excited for a Triple H match. Of all the matches on a card, it'll be the one I'm less interested in.
The problem with Triple H is because also he's always sort of been the heel, and he always does slowing it down as his heel work. So you watch it and you're like, well, he's just going to do a bit where it drags out for ages.
Yeah, his match with Seth Rollins at WrestleMania was it last year?
Yeah, and
not the right match.
You just know, yeah, exactly. You just kind of know what's going to happen in the sense that, like, and you know that for a bit of it, you're going to be like, "Come on, the other guy," like, and just sitting there going, "I can't wait for this to kick off again."
But then conversely, the Mania match this year was just it was outstanding, and that was all. You could tell it was all him and Angle that kind of like mapped this whole thing out and said, "We'll do this, we'll do this, we'll do this," and it was just like it's one of my favorite matches of the year. Like that for me, I think is probably one of the best things WWE has done. Like that's easily within the top 5, possibly the top 3. I thought it was absolutely terrific.
But it was the hottest of hot tags, though. Is that I guess that's the thing is like they worked the beginning so well that you were like, and also Triple H doesn't come out as much anymore. So when you see him in the ring, you do get excited again because you're like, oh, good, it's nice to see him out, but you're not bored of him because he's not out every week.
Yes.
And it's just, and also same with Angle, like seeing him in the ring again, even if he can't move, basically from the top of his head to where his legs begin, it doesn't really. He's only got 2 articulating parts now.
It's like a really rubbish action figure.
Yeah. So that's it. But other than that, it was great.
Yeah. So I think there are some people that for example, at the Greatest Royal Rumble when they announced, like, one of the big marquee matches they announced was John Cena versus Triple H, and I was like,
Yeah.
It's like the Australia show later this year. The big marquee match they've announced that is Triple H versus The Undertaker, and I'm not, and which is bizarre because you look at their 2 WrestleMania matches that they had, technically 3, were awesome.
Yeah.
Like really, like that Hell in a Cell match is phenomenal. It's such a great match, and the match at WrestleMania X7 is overlooked because the other 2 matches are so good that really I should be like, oh man, that's going to be great.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because they're being trotted out for the nostalgia.
Yes,
and so you also know that as older guys, they're not going to go above and beyond because they don't need to. Like, you just need to see the Undertaker do a couple of things. You know,
walk the ropes.
Yeah, if you can, please. But yeah, like if you can do a couple of things, great. But if you can't, then don't. Definitely don't dive to the outside, Undertaker. Do not.
Yeah.
They're not yours.
So those were a couple of names, but I think Okada would be the one that I'd pick as my as clearly the most universally loved.
I've said Matt Hardy before.
But again, that is all on me as opposed, and that's in no way, shape, or form Kazuchika Okada's fault.
My controversial hot take.
Yeah.
Cody.
Oh right, yeah.
Cody. I like the character of Cody. I just in the ring he doesn't excite me at all. Watching Cody's a bit just dry, I find. I
was always the same way actually. When everyone kept telling me when he was in WWE and stuck in the mid card or lower mid card, everyone was like, "Oh, if Cody could just get a push, like he could be the next big star." And I was like, I never saw it.
He's got the personality of a big star though, and I think that's what props him up is that he embodies the big star.
Yeah.
I just don't think and he's got better since he's gone on the indie scene. He's actually his work is better. I just don't find him mega interesting.
Yeah, I think as a businessman, incredible, and as a wrestler, really, really good as well. And it took me a little while to warm to him on the indies because I was still in that very much I didn't really see it when you were in WWE, mate.
Yeah,
because you were always cutting those really weird promos, so I didn't really see it there. But now, the longer he's been out of WWE, I'm more like, no, he's really, really good. He's certainly not in my top 10 favorite wrestlers in the world.
No,
but he is very, very good.
I just don't. I don't.
I like him more for his drive and his ambition to show that there is a world outside WWE and All In and things like that. I love that about Cody. But I'm not going to be the first person to buy a pay-per-view because he's in the main event.
Well, absolutely not. And I think he is a fantastic heel, and he is a good he's a really solid promo, and he does the whole character and all the booking and stuff is brilliant with him. I just find the wrestling flat, and it's almost like he's just got to that megastar stage maybe too soon.
Maybe. But you know what? That is all we've got time for on this episode of the WrestleRamble. So please do click the videos that have just appeared on our laps and click this button here to subscribe to the podcast version of this show wherever you get your podcast from. It's free. Pledge on Patreon. I have been Luke Owen. This has been Ollie Davis, and that was Rambling.